Hey, you guys. So we're going to introduce Unit 3 in just a minute. But before that, since we just finished Unit 2, I want to talk about Unit 2 and talk about how things went in that unit and see if there's some things that we can learn from that unit that we can apply for the rest of the semester going forward. Okay, so Unit 2, we knew that that was going to be really hard going into it. You guys took that information and you worked really hard and you totally crushed it. It was awesome. Your test scores are so much better than they usually are for this unit. I'm really, really impressed. Not only that, the average test scores were within like 2 percentage points of the average test scores for the first unit, which is really, that's never happened before in this class for me because this unit is so much more difficult than the first unit. So that just shows how hard you guys worked, and it really paid off. I'm very impressed with you all. I do know that a lot of you also worked really hard and are feeling really frustrated and really disappointed right now, and you're not alone. Again, there was still this kind of discrepancy where we had like a lot of higher scores and a lot of lower scores, and like fewer scores in the middle than usual. So if you scored lower than you thought that you would, lower than you wanted to, lower than you felt like you should have after working really hard, I know that that's really frustrating. Don't panic though, because we still have 500 points left in this class, so there's a lot of opportunities to improve your grade. There's only 1,000 points in this class total, so like half the points are still left in this semester. So if you're sitting there with like a D, feeling really down and frustrated and pessimistic, don't, because you can totally really drastically improve your grade still. Okay, on that note, there are 3 things that I noticed were happening with a lot of the students who were not performing well in this unit. So one of those things was not spending an adequate amount of time in the class. Another thing was not using the book as much as you should, or very much, or like at all sometimes. And the third thing was not asking for help when you needed it. So on the first note, I just want to say, like, for comparison, that if you're spending, an hour and a half or an hour on this class a week, or you spent like an hour on the exam and you didn't get the score that you wanted, just to put this into perspective, if this was a brick and mortar classroom, like in a classroom with a human teacher standing in front of you, an hour is like a third of the amount of time that you would spend in the class each week. And that doesn't count doing readings and working on assignments and studying for exams and things like that. So if the amount of time that you're spending on this class is like a fraction of the amount of time that you would spend just like sitting in a classroom for another class, then that's a sign that maybe you should be spending more time on this class, budgeting more time for this, and adjusting your expectations for how much time it's going to take to get this stuff done in this class. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing is not using the book very much. So this is funny. I'm sorry, it's not funny because like some students' grades are not as good because they aren't using the book. So that was the wrong word. But it is an interesting thing this semester. I think it's because of the videos that students are really leaning into the videos and like leaning away from the book. And that's the wrong thing to do. So the videos are here to supplement the readings. I'm doing all these videos under the assumption that you've already done the reading. So if you haven't done the reading while you're watching the video, when I like make the video stop and I say, go get the book, stop and go get the book and read it, follow along during the videos, use it on the assignments, use it on the exams. That's your primary source in this class, not the videos. The videos give you like a little bit of explanation on certain parts of the book, but in like connecting some of the dots and stuff. But the book is the material that you're like really being tested on. I'm just like trying to help you get it in the videos. Okay, so use the book. Lastly is asking for help when you need it. So in this unit, every week I would get emails after the assignments were submitted or after the exam asking what you can do to do better in the class. And that's really good. You should email me if you are concerned about your performance in this class, and we should be able to talk about what to do better going forward. But it's really kind of late. There's not a lot that I can do once you've already gotten the score that you're unhappy with. So if you have a question, if you have any concerns, just stop what you're doing and ask me. Don't just like sit there frustrated and submit an assignment that you don't feel confident about. Don't spend like 4 hours on YouTube looking to see if someone else answered the exact question that you have. Don't like spend a bunch of time on Google, on Quora or whatever, looking for exactly that answer. Like you can do those things, but But it makes a lot more sense to just ask me the question that you have, and then I can give you the answer. I can explain it to you. Of course, if you just ask me, like, what is the answer to this question, I'm not going to give you that. But if you have a confusion, a point of confusion that you can ask me about, we can work through that. And that's exactly what you should do, is come to me when you have questions like that. Okay, so that's what you can do to improve going forward. Coming back to where we are now, we are starting Unit 3. So to go back to the main points of this class so we can understand like what we're doing here and how this is like moving us towards our goal or objective for this course. So in this class, what our objective is to be able to build and recognize a good argument. And we've talked about how there are two features or two properties of a good argument. One of them we focused on principally in the last unit. So we were mostly talking about the form of an argument, when an argument has a good form. And in this unit, we're going to talk about the other primary property of a good argument. So what are those two properties of a good argument? The two properties of a good argument are validity and soundness. So the last unit we were talking about validity. We were talking about the form of an argument. When is an argument valid? An argument is valid if it's impossible for the premises to be true and the conclusion to be false. Okay, so we've talked about validity a lot now at this point. Now we're moving on to soundness. When is an argument sound? Well, an argument is sound if it's valid and it has true premises. So an argument is sound if it's impossible for the premises to be true and the conclusion to be false, and the premises actually are true. So in this unit, we're talking about soundness, but more than we're talking about when an argument is sound, we're going to talk about when arguments are not sound. So we're going to talk about bad reasoning, and we're talking about bad reasoning or mistakes in reasoning that come about for reasons other than the argument's form. So we're going to be talking about informal mistakes in reasoning or informal fallacies. So we're going to start informal fallacies actually next week. Before we get into that, this week we're going to talk about rhetorical devices. Why is that? Well, in order to recognize a bad argument, first you have to be able to recognize an argument. And sometimes it's hard to identify an argument if it's really shrouded in a lot of rhetoric. So this week we're going to talk about the types of rhetorical devices that we see around arguments, and we're going to practice identifying an argument and distinguishing between an argument and rhetoric. And once we do that, then we can start evaluating arguments and checking for fallacious reasoning in our arguments. Okay, so this week we'll talk about rhetorical devices. Next week we're going to talk about informal fallacies, and after that we go to statistical fallacies, fallacies of language, and inductive fallacies. We're doing statistical fallacies, but we're not doing statistics, so don't panic at that. It's just statistical fallacies, so don't worry. Okay, that's what we're doing for the next 3 weeks. The week after that, you'll either be doing your exam or you'll be submitting your creative project. So, as I'd said before, you have an option in this unit to end with the exam or a project. If you go the exam route, then in week 13, you will do a writing assignment, and in week 14, you'll take an exam. If you go the creative project route, in week 13, you'll send me a project proposal and like a little sample of your project just to make sure that you're on the right track. And then week 14, you'll submit your actual project. So the parameters for the creative project are really loose. It's basically do a project and use material from this class. I'll give you like a handout with all the details in the next like day or two. I'll put that up, and I'll do a video in 2 weeks or so, 2 weeks from now, with the details for the creative project. You'll have 2 weeks to work on it. You really shouldn't spend more than 2 weeks on it. Like, I don't want you to start it now and spend a whole month on it. Don't do that. That's too much time. But you can start thinking about it now as soon as I get your document up with all the information. So to give you an example of some things that students have done in the past, last semester I had a student write a rap song about informal fallacies. Had students do like comic book drawings with informal fallacies. Someone did a collection of Spider-Man memes with informal fallacies and bad reasoning. There was a fallacies board game that was really cool. So yeah, anything basically that you can submit to me online is fair game, as long as it's creative and as long as it's has to do with the material that we're learning in this unit. And yeah, it's really fun. It's fun for me to grade. The students in the past have had a lot of fun making these assignments. They're like real fun, not like when I said that logic is fun and no one agreed with me. It's like actually fun. Hopefully I'll actually have fun with this project if you choose to do that. Okay, so details for that are coming. The last thing I want to say in this video is that this week you have a bonus, extra, surprise, extra credit opportunity. So what happened was in your assignment, I give you a clip from a Star Trek episode, and I really wanted to assign the whole episode, but that was totally unreasonable because it's like 45 minutes. So instead of assigning the whole episode, I just gave you a clip. But for extra credit, you can watch the whole episode and you can do a little assignment with with some other arguments that are in the episode. So you will you can find all the information for that on Blackboard with the assignment. It's like underneath all the assignment details, and it's due on Monday. I hope that you guys, if you watch it, I hope you really like it. For those of you guys, all the kids who are hitting me up this week looking for extra points after that test, here you go. I know I said no before, but I changed my mind because I just want everyone to watch my favorite episode of Star Trek. Okay, so there's your extra credit. There's information for the unit. If you guys have questions, let me know, and I mean it. If you have questions, definitely let me know. Get in touch. All right, so enjoy the assignment this week, and I'm sure that I will hear from some of you guys soon.